what does the word provident in Provident living mean? I thought we better look at what that word actually means to make sense of why I talk about Provident living. Hello and welcome to Escaping the Dole with Cindy. What does Provident living have to do with escaping the dole? Well, for me anyway, according to vocabulary.com, can we trace back to Latin word providere, meaning to foresee and provide. Someone looking into the future or foresees the future in a sense and makes decisions based on future needs. It's down to looking at the situation you're in, looking at the situation that goes on around you and making decisions based on those and thinking, okay, what does it look like might happen and what can I do to prepare for that? So I think it comes into prepping, but as you know, if you've been following my blogs, my YouTube channel on Blue Garden Cottage, then you will know that I do not do catastrophe prepping. I don't think it's possible to prep for catastrophe except for making sure you've got a 72-hour emergency kit to get out and everything you need in it. What you could be preparing for in your area might not be appropriate for somebody else's. What I am all about is appropriate prepping, and that is preparing for everyday things that go on in life. I've mentioned that before as well, and I've mentioned it in practically all of the blogs and the YouTube channel, the Blue Garden Cottage one, about being an appropriate prepper. As to foresight, well, I think it's just having good sense to assess. As looking back on history, actually, if we look back at situations like with the Great Depression and the economic issues around that had repercussions for generations, and the time of both world wars and the financial repercussions it had for people all over, and the consequences of that. So I think to be able to kind of have that foresight to try and see what's ahead, we look to history for repeated patterns, because that's all it is patterns repeated. We're human beings. We seem to go through cycles of rinse and repeat. So as far as provident living, to live like that always is to, for me as a suburban homesteader, is to look at my finances, look at what's going on in my life and in my family, what's going on in my community, what's going on in my country and the economics, and then also wider, and just think, look, I could get caught up in all of the prepping stuff, go overboard, but I'm not going to. And I haven't. What I have done is to try and build a store cupboard of enough food for at least 3 months. I'm aiming to have for at least a year, because from experience, and right now, last year we hit a financial bump where things went south. We picked up a bit. I was practically out of overdraft and we were starting to build up a reserve, and then suddenly it all hit the fan again for our family, and now we're back to square one again. So it's come full circle. So remember what I was talking about with repeated patterns? So obviously something needs dealing with there to stop this happening every time, so that we could finally move forward, and that is in hand. I'm not one of those that like the what do you call it, reality TV kind of lifestyle. I'm not here for entertainment. I'm not sure I'd know how to be entertaining. I hope that I'm helpful and informative at least. So anyway, what has Provident living got to do with escaping the dole? As you know, if you have been watching all of my other channel videos and the first ones in the Escaping the Dole with Cindy YouTube channel as well, I myself and my hubby have been for years trying to regain our self-reliance because of health issues. We've been forced into being reliant on social welfare for a long time. We've tried jobs in between, but jobs that are supposed to be suitable for certain disabilities turned out to make things much worse. But we keep trying, and we've been on a journey for about 6 years trying to find something we could do from home that would be able to bring money in. We tried the crafting thing, and hubby has wonderful talent for crafting, and we tried to make a business of that, but it turned out that was swapping time for money, and it wasn't very good money. It would never pay the bills. It literally just kept him in wood and supplies to keep the crafts going. So it turned out to be good for his mental health, to be able to have something to do, but it wasn't going to help us escape the dole. So I've been working on for a few years. Sorry, I'm distracted by, there's a magpie. Somebody in the neighborhood is giving the birds, you know, the whole peanut shells, the shell, the pods with the 2 peanuts in it, the whole thing, has been feeding the birds with that. And there's magpie that keeps bringing them to my garden and burying them in all sorts of places in the garden. So he is living providently, and he is putting aside food for later when there might be a scarcity of food. And it's amazing how even nature does that to me. I mentioned that before, I think. I just love that example. So for me, realizing that escaping the dole eventually means there will come a point where you finally cross over, because they will, as you earn money, you declare it, and they reduce your benefits in line with what you're earning, so that it crosses over. You're not going to be earning any more than you're getting, because it's a crossover. The only time it does change is when you're finally earning more than you would have been given in benefits, and that takes over, and then you're off benefits because your income has replaced it. And then you still have to build your income to increase, because let's face it, living on benefits is, contrary to popular belief, is not an easy ride. It is not a free ride, especially if you're not milking the system and you're trying to be honest and stay within the realms of doing things above board, which we are. That's why it's difficult, but I prefer to keep my integrity. Escaping the dole and preparing for that, and how Provident living can help me to do that, is by making sure that I build that food storage in the cupboards, and make sure my garden is productive all year round, to make sure I have no debts. And I speak about these things in the blogs. I've got a few blogs out to do with Provident living and self-reliance. If you'll have a look at those, I'll put a link in with the description boxes for you to have a look at those. Just doing the things that I talk about as far as preparedness goes. I also work on my mental mindset in preparation for finally leaving the dole, because there is a security in staying comfortably on the dole, because you know that the money's going to be coming in. But here's the thing, you don't know the money's going to be coming in. Things happen. Just as much as life happens, politics happens, and it's out of your control completely. You have no control over the politics of whoever's in charge and their agendas to reduce expenses on the national purse, and to feed the rhetoric around stereotypes. You do not know that there's always going to be that regular supply. And the way that things are changing, and has been changing for 20 years now, there's changes that have been coming in all along the way and are reaching a point now where everything is completely changing. The whole direction is changing. Hubby and I saw long before we ever needed to rely on the system that it will change and it will disappear completely to what we know. It might still be here in a different form, but it will not be what we're used to. And I think it's only wise and provident to try and find a way of escaping it as soon as possible. And if not, there is still, if the disabilities that you have and the situation you're in is such that you cannot leave benefits ever, then you can still live providently to make it an endurable thing. If you have no debts, if you have full store cupboards, if you have a garden growing, if you can manage that, or somebody can manage it for you, or if you have things set in place ready to be able to weather whatever storm happens, then it makes it easier to endure. Yeah, I think provident living, whether you are able to escape or not, is still good. If you are on a journey to becoming self-reliant, financially self-reliant again, then provident living is the first thing that I would suggest we get stuck into. Going back to my First Things First blogs and podcast about putting the most important things first. And I think provident living and putting those things in place actually makes it easier for the transition. And we're getting to a point now where the transition is not one that you can choose. It's going to be forced on you. It'll just happen. So we're getting to crunch time, where I've always said I do not want any political leader claiming credit for hubby and myself leaving the social welfare system. I want it to be because of our own efforts, and that's exactly what I'm doing. That is what I'm doing with creating the blogs, creating the podcast, writing the books. That's part of my journey. I still have, I think if I make, the first year I made £10, last year I made £11 something on the book, the one book that I have. I'll put there's a link to that in the description as well. The blogs, yet I still have to create enough quality blogs, helpful blogs, to be able to qualify for monetizing that with Google AdSense. They still are not accepting my letter from HMRC that I am a resident in the UK and paying taxes in the UK. So I still have to call HMRC and see if they can do something, because it said in the letter that they might have to liaise with the company to prove my residency or something. So I have to call them, and it's been very difficult with this time of the year back to March. Between March and July, it's impossible to get hold of them with end of year taxes. I still have to get hold of them with that, but I can try to do affiliate marketing. I'm not so keen on that because it's a lot of work, and it's again swapping time for money to start with. And I don't quite like the promotional side of the affiliate marketing, where I have to promote something and the viewer has to click on the link to it and even buy something before you can get a tiny commission out of it. And that is, I think, I'm not ready for that yet, because it's too much like pushing sales on the viewers. I'm not ready for that mentally yet. So I will eventually do that, because it will be coming naturally. It will happen with the blog. I think there's something I can have with the blog if I mention affiliate links in the blog rather than in videos and podcasts. I'm not comfortable with that yet. There is the subscription to the podcast if anybody wants to subscribe, but I'm still figuring out what I could add as value to subscribers who contribute financially to the podcast. I have cancelled Patreon because it's too much. I already have enough to deal with without Patreon, and that's not been effective just yet because I haven't grown enough. I think that might not be something for me, and I think I'll just stick to the podcast and the blogs and the writing. So I am focusing on writing useful books, helpful books that actually have value to people. And I would love that. That's what I'm busy doing. I am working on introduction to suburban homesteading and a recipe book for, you know, using your store cupboard and your garden, whatever you've got, using your homestead pantry recipes. So yeah, that is what I'll be working on for the next year. It does take time. I hope I could get things out sooner, but you never know. So that's what we've been working on, and how I'm trying to live providently. I'm trying to be very strict not to spend money where it isn't absolutely necessary, because we're saving up to have the workshop electrified so we can because at the moment we're just using an extension lead from the house. So with the power tools and the lathes, it isn't that effective. It does affect how these machines work. And if there's a trip out in the workshop, it will affect the electrics in the house. So we're getting proper electrics installed in the workshop. And that will cost us nearer £700. So we are having to scrimp and scrape to do that. Yes, we are. We're skin in the bones kind of thing to save up and pay for that so that we have no debt. We don't want debts. We don't want to live on credit because that is slavery. And I mentioned that in the very last, this week's blog, because I'm doing blogs every week now. Provident living to avoid debt, making the most of what I have, using what I have to create whatever it is we need. That takes a lot of time. That is swapping a lot of time, and it's very intensive in what it takes to do stuff, because you don't realize just how long it takes to do things from scratch with what you have until you're doing it. I mean, I've been making homemade plant-based yogurt for a while. The last batch totally failed. I have no idea why. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, because yogurt in the shop, vegan live yogurt, is very expensive in the shop. I've been trying to make my own and it's been working very well, and then this last batch just failed, so that turned out to be expensive as well because you couldn't use the stuff that you used to make it. There you go. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So you got to be prepared for things that don't always work. What else is there I've tried that hasn't always worked? There's quite a few things. Oh, just put up a video on the Blue Garden Cottage YouTube channel as well, making the new curtains for the lounge. We're using the denim that I had a massive box full of old denims that I chopped up to reuse, and I used the belts, the waistbands, to make tab tops for the curtains. And I made the tabs a little too short, so it's not sliding easily on the poles, but it's experience. We live and we learn. And I think living providently is bringing us closer and closer to a point where we'll be able to gain our financial self-reliance much quicker than in the past. And it's almost getting to that pivotal point, and it's kind of scary, but at the same time I just want it to happen, and it just feels like there's obstacles all the time. It just never stops, but I'm not giving up. I am staying on this road, and I really hope that while we're doing this, I can share the journey with you. I haven't been sharing as much information as I would like to, because there isn't a huge amount of progress just yet. I'm hoping that as soon as there is, that it'll be a cascade of things happening that sets things in place that I'll be able to share with you. But in the meantime, I think the most important thing to do, whether you're trying to escape from the dole or escape from poverty, full stop, Provident living is one of the best tools that you could have to help you on that journey and changing your lifestyle. I mean, it doesn't have to be all in self-sufficiency. It doesn't have to be all in do everything by yourself, but the principles can be applied in every type of lifestyle that you live, except, of course, if your lifestyle is one of spend, then you're not going to be watching this anyway. So I'm fine. I'm not talking to those because they like their lifestyle, and that's fine. Until they get to a point where they need to change it, then I'm here, and I hope I can help. Well, I think, I don't know if I've made an impact today. I don't know if I've helped you feel inspired to try and adopt Provident living as a way of safeguarding and providing you with some self-reliance and security and hope to foresee whatever is possible, and making sure you limit the damage. Do damage control ahead of time. So I hope, I mean, we're in the middle of stupid elections at the minute, and you know, the political situation here in the UK is ridiculous. I mean, it is all around the world. You can't escape it. It's everywhere. People are all gone cuckoo. You sometimes put your hand over your head and you're just going, what on earth are people doing? What are they thinking? How are they even behaving this way? It's absolutely crazy. But at the same time, we have to focus on the positive things that we can do, the positive things that are around, so that we're not completely lost in all the negativity, the cynicism, and the darkness of the days. But we could offset those. We could do an in spite of those things. It's important to do everything that's in your power to provide for yourself and your family, no matter what. And I think, I don't know if, some people just put on the blinkers and they don't think about what's obviously going on and is in play to go forward, and is going to affect everybody's lives in every way. And we could pretend that everything's okay and that it's all just political hype and that it's all just doomsayers. But it's wise and provident to just prepare a little bit, at least. Just do something to give you some security and peace of mind. I think that's what it is. I'm done with stress. I am so fed up with negativity, cynicism and all that. And I'm thinking, look, if I do everything I possibly can, then I'm at least getting ahead of myself, if nobody else. And I am doing something. There's nothing worse than sitting in a scenario where you think it's all coming down and crashing in on you, and you're sitting frozen, doing nothing. Because sometimes for some people, that's all they could do. They just can't move forward. They're just so frozen in stress and fear and that horrible situation that they cannot move forward. But there is a way to break out of that freeze and make yourself move and feel like, instead of being overwhelmed, you are feeling in control of at least your area, your sphere, your circle, your family, your situation, that at least you can control what you can control. And I think that's what this is about. So I hope that by the end of this podcast, you will have felt, okay, I'm going to look into what I have, what I need, what's going on. How can I gain myself some peace of mind, security, and be able to handle whatever's coming through provident living, even if it means I'm not on the dole and I don't need to escape the system, but there's hard times coming. I have a mortgage. I need to make sure I can still pay my mortgage so that I don't lose my home. And provident living can do that. It can help you to be able to find ways of supporting yourself and your family and still pay your bills. I think that is really important, especially if you don't have the security of, for now, regular dole payments. If you do not have that blessing because you're in between those that qualify and those that don't, and you're stuck in between and you're really, really struggling, in fact, more than most people on the dole, I think provident living gives you at least a winning edge on the situation, and it's still and even more valuable to yourselves. So I hope that you will let me know in comments how you're doing, if you are concerned about this kind of thing, what kind of things keep you up at night, what kind of things keep you worried. Are you not worried at all? Give us a bit of your how you can be so positive. I'd really appreciate to hear from you. Until the next podcast, I hope I could, at the moment it's just being one a month, but I hope I will be able to do at least 2 a month soon. I'm getting to grips with the schedule of the videos and the blogs, and hopefully the podcasts as well. So I'm starting to get into a rhythm and I'm fine-tuning it. So be patient with me. And I hope that you have a wonderful week or 2 before I speak to you again, or even a few. Get provident living, get providing for whatever it is that you need to face or possibly might, and just get some chill time. Carry on regardless. Until then, folks, I hope you have a great day, great week, great month. Ta-ra.